So in today's video, I want to do a deep dive into the Kumburgaz Turkey UFO video. This is a legendary case. It has been requested many times by you guys in the comments under my debunking videos. A lot of people claim that this is undebunkable, and in a way that is true. I don't think it is possible to fully disprove or debunk this video, so to say, but there's plenty of red flags in this footage and theories about what it could be. And I want to break this down to you guys and reiterate why I personally think it's probably not aliens or a extraterrestrial UFO. Before we get into the video itself, though, I have to thank the guys on Metabunk. These guys are doing a fantastic job of theorizing and coming up with different routes. So it was much easier for me to do my research on the case due to Metabunk. So I want to say upfront that I'm very grateful for the work that these guys are doing. Now let's get into the footage. If you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with it. You can see a little outtake of the longer video here on the left-hand side. Now, the footage that is often described as the Kumburgaz Turkey UFO video has been shot within a frame of 3 years between 2007 and 2009. Allegedly, it's always showing the same object over a span of 3 years, but the object does not always look the same. And here's a breakdown of various shots throughout all these years, throughout all the footage. It often looks very, very similar, right? It's clearly very close to one another in terms of the looks, but it's not identical, right? Every now and then you get the object just being almost like a semicircle, like it having a full circle, and then often you get these little interruptions that sit within the object. The footage was filmed by a man called Yalcin, I hope I'm saying it right. And by the way, he goes by different names. There are interviews where he gives himself a different name, so that's already slightly odd. But he used to be a night security guard at the Yeni Kent Apartments. You can kind of see it here in this map where the witness was and where the Yeni Kent Apartments are. You can find them in Google Maps. They are still there, and the direction that he was filming. The more common theory is now that he was filming more towards this direction, towards this land over here, and not to the area and the direction that you see here on the left-hand side. And here's a picture of the man himself and how he looks and which camera he used and the tripod he used. All the detail is down here. And he's standing next to Antonio Urzi, okay? And we did a video about him separately. I'll link that down in the description if you don't know who that is. Watch my video, okay? But it already gives a little bit of context in my opinion. Now this man who shot the footage, Yalcin that you see on the left-hand side here, casually smoking a cigarette and making me personally wonder whether it's actually a good idea to give this kind of technology in the hands like this man, because it might be dangerous. But he claims that over the years, over those 3 years where he filmed all this footage, there were more than 20 other witnesses who saw the object as well. I couldn't find any other footage. No one else filmed it. Maybe that's because he has this quite high-end equipment with a high-grade teleconversion lens that just allowed for extreme zooms, as you can see in the footage. But one of the witnesses who allegedly witnessed him filming this footage, some of it, was Dr. Roger Leir. Now, Dr. Roger K. Leir is a legendary figure within the world of UFOs. He died 2014, so 10 years ago. But he said, and I'm quoting here, "I was there when it was filmed. We were looking at a monitor through the camera. At that point, we must have had between 6 and 8 people in that vicinity witnessing it when it filmed." So this man claims that he saw this man shooting some of the footage live. Besides him making that claim, there is nothing else to verify it, at least not what I could find. There is no footage of him filming him while he's filming. There are no other angles that would kind of explain and give a little bit more context to this claim. It is what it is. Now, when it comes to the footage itself, there is one quite specific and unique aspect to it that has to be mentioned. Actually, two aspects. One being that with this zoom, we're getting quite a bit of detail, right? It is still really washed out footage, as you would expect it in 2009. The camera technology wasn't where it is today. But the other unique aspect about this footage is that believers claim that you can see the aliens inside the craft, and you see the footage in question here where you seem to be able to almost see two creatures sitting there in that little gap, which believers claim to be some kind of cockpit. But the amount of detail and the claim that you can see the aliens in the footage makes this footage really unique. Plus, it hasn't really been debunked in a lot of detail, at least not publicly. So that really added to the mysticism of it, and a lot of people seem to take this footage at face value and claim that it's the real deal. Now, where was the footage shot? We already looked at this map, which gives us like a top-down view of the geological surroundings. The man was standing here, but let's take a look at where it was actually shot. So this on the left-hand side here is the terrace where he allegedly shot the footage, pretty much in the exact location where the man with the stripy shirt is standing right now. Here's another shot of that same space, looking into the direction of where the footage was allegedly shot. So that little piece of land that you see over here protruding into the sea is that piece of land that you see over here. And just for reference, here's a shot from the actual footage that the man shot himself. So you can clearly see the piece of land in the distance. You see this banister with these very iconic balls on top of the banister. So again, he would be standing here looking to this direction, roughly getting footage like this. Now, because there's so much footage that was shot throughout these 3 years, we will not be able to look at all of it in this video. There is a great compilation that has stabilized the footage. Unfortunately, I don't know who did this. It has been uploaded by Knaps1 on YouTube. I don't know if he actually did that, but I guess I have to give him the credit for this one, because also in the description it doesn't say that he took it from somewhere else. It does sound like Knaps1 on YouTube. And I'll link his channel down in the description as well, just for reference. Stabilized this footage, and it is a 35-minute clip that pretty much takes all the footage that is available of all these different UFOs. We looked at the compilation and the different images in the beginning, and he put it into a compilation basically in chronological order as far as I'm aware, and he stabilized it, right? So again, we will not be able to look at all of it in this video, but I'll link this video down in the description as well. So if you're really interested and you want to see the full stabilized version of all the Kumburgaz Turkey UFO videos, then feel free to go check it out after this video. Now, despite the stabilization, it is still extremely wobbly footage. Okay, I mean, the guy did a great job in trying to stabilize it, but it is so wobbly that it like at times you watch it and it almost feels unnecessary. It almost feels like it was intentionally filmed in a way that it is wobbly and that it is moving around here, especially considering that the man was using a tripod. I understand that a lot of the footage was extremely zoomed in, but nonetheless, like, I look at it and I'm like, it doesn't need to be that wobbly, personally. And then also considering that he filmed it over 3 years, it's like over and over again, this same UFO has been filmed in pretty much the same location. Why don't you get like a better tripod? Why after 1 year, you don't invest a little bit of money in a better tripod, a better setup that would allow you to get steady footage of this alleged UFO? So that already raises questions for me personally. Also, the object seems to remain stationary. It never moves, okay? We never see it like him zooming out and the object like flying across the horizon, going up, going down. It is stationary, which obviously indicates a stationary object. Also, considering it's 2007, 8, and 9, it is very low resolution footage. It's over-zoomed, it's over-magnified to hell, okay? So it is almost impossible to actually get like some serious information, visual information about what we're looking at here beyond that little bit of what we're seeing. Even the shape, if we look at this footage, the shape of this object is not really clear, right? If it would be a UFO, if it would be a disc, surely you would see some more around the bottom. It always looks almost cut off, right? It looks like something disc-shaped that has then been cut off from underneath for some reason. So, look, these are just things, when I look at this footage, my initial reaction is like, these are questions where I'm like, I can't give you answers to these questions. Now, I want to break this video down in 2 parts. The first part is going to consist of me highlighting some obvious red flags beyond the ones I just highlighted. So I want to talk through a few visual and just general red flags about this footage. And then I want to go into the theories, okay? And there's a bunch of theories that are different from one another that propose how this footage could have been achieved and why it is most probably not showing an extraterrestrial spaceship, okay? So let's start with the red flags. And these are really just a bunch of common sense questions that a lot of especially UFO believers seem to like to avoid. First and foremost, this area where he shot that is a very densely populated area. A lot of people, I mean, look, it's not as densely populated as Manhattan or whatever, but a lot of people are living along this coast, yet he is the only guy who ever filmed this over all those years. And it was a big story, okay? It was covered in national television in Turkey. It's a big story. Surely you would think at some point some more people would turn up with more cameras filming the same thing. So that's already like, how come he's the only guy who got that footage? it's a bit questionable. And then there are aspects like this one, okay? The footage that you see on the left-hand side here was shot in 2008 in August. And then the footage you see on the right-hand side was allegedly shot in May 2009. Now, this seems to be the exact same object, right? And he films what? The exact same object in the exact same place 1 year apart? I mean, come on. That just makes no sense, right? Like what, the aliens come back, never films them moving whatsoever, but they sit at the exact same spot 1 year later with the exact same object. That's just, I don't know, man. That's already like, I don't know. To me, again, coming back to the point that it's being a stationary object, considering it never moves, to me, it already indicates possibly an object on land, right? A stationary object that's on land, maybe a piece of architecture, maybe a reflection of some object. But to have an object like this appear at the same spot for hours at a time, over years and years, and again, he's the only guy who filmed it, no other recordings or angles, this is very suspicious. Now let's get into the theories, and let's get started with theory number 1. Now keep in mind, this man who filmed this was a security guard. So it is fair to assume that the man had access to security cameras. And here's an image of the marina that is close to that area. And you can actually see there is a bunch of security cameras here, as there would be in probably any marina. Got to protect those boats. And then over here you see these kind of seawalls, as you see them very often in marinas as well, creating this kind of entrance, these two pieces coming from left and right. Now when looking at all these images, all these different images, there's one thing that I and a few other people on Metabunk as well noticed, and that is that it eerily looks like a CCTV camera screen, a cut-off CCTV camera screen. And what I mean by that, let's look at an example of like some CCTV footage. Obviously, this is not from the same site, but you get the idea. Do you see that rounding? Because obviously they're using fisheye lenses that really stretch the angle out so you get the maximum view over whatever you want to observe. But you get this iconic rounding in this CCTV footage, and that is very much reflected in some of the shots that you see here. And that would also explain why the shots of this UFO look similar due to the rounding shape, but not always the same, because maybe it's circulating through different CCTV cameras. So the actual ring, the circular ring on the top of the screen is changing. Maybe some of the lights work 1 year, some of the lights don't work in another year. So it would slightly change the footage that you see in those CCTV cameras on these presumably CRT monitors that he as a security guard would be observing. And now let's go one step further. This is a shot that was actually taken from this UFO footage. And you can kind of see there is like an element that comes here from the left-hand side, and there's an element that comes here from the right-hand side. It's dark, right? It's at night, it's footage at night. But these two elements seem to be illuminated. And now this is a shot of the entrance to the marina in that area in question. Do you see the similarities? If these two little stone walls, entrances, would be illuminated, the right one slightly bigger, the left one slightly thinner, and obviously now it's stretched, like we said, it's due to the fisheye lens. It is now stretched. It is not a straight shot like the one you see here, but it would be stretched, forced into this three-dimensional circular angle almost. There seems to be a hint that at least this particular shot could be CCTV footage through the fisheye lens, through the low quality of these cameras, and then through the CRT monitor of this entrance to the marina. Now again, I'm not saying that this explains all the shots, okay? There's such a broad variety of similar looking shots that are slightly different, but it certainly gives us like a little point that we can latch onto and build forward from that. Now, if you look at the footage, you can see it is an object that seems to be rather small on the screen, on the firmament, and then he zooms into it quite a bit. So how would you achieve that footage? If it would be some kind of CRT monitor that shows CCTV footage, if you zoom into that, surely the light of the monitor would also illuminate the frame of the screen and you would see other elements. How would he get this effect that it is only that little stripe, that little light on the horizon that he then zooms into? And to that, I would personally say it might be a Pepper's ghost effect. Now in the simplest form, you can see what a Pepper's ghost effect is here, and it's actually a pretty good example. And you can see a 45-degree angled screen over here. It's very common, like it's used as an effect in Disney's haunted houses and stuff in the Disney parks to give the illusion of an object kind of hovering in midair. Now if you would have his CCTV monitor as you see actually the screen down here, angled at 90 degrees, showing the CCTV footage in question. And maybe the screen that he was using was not as big as this giant perspex sheet that you see here. Maybe it was just like a small piece of perspex that he angled in the right angle, so it just reflects part of this CCTV footage. Hence, you only see part of it. And that would also explain why this semicircular shape is actually cut off at the bottom, because maybe he only had a small piece of perspex that was just reflecting a small piece of that screen underneath. He puts that in front of a window or maybe attaches it to one of the poles that we saw earlier on the terrace. And here you go. You get the effect of an object hovering in midair. If you now take 2-3 steps back, it is late night. The camera's pretty much garbage considering the time and the technology. You zoom into this tiny little light and you get results like this one. Now there's a few more indicators that hint towards that direction. Like for example, if you film something off or of a reflection that comes from a CRT monitor, like the one you see at the bottom here, you often get, like, it's not a crisp image like with an LCD screen or the modern ones we have today. You actually get, if you zoom into it, a slight blue halo around objects, which you can actually observe in some of the shots right here. Not in all of them, and I guess there are still questions about why it is not flickering much more, because if you were filming at least a reflection of a CRT monitor, you would expect a little bit more flickering. And don't get me wrong, there are shots within the overall footage where it does flicker a little bit, but it's not that the whole footage is flickering all the time. So it does raise these questions, but I guess in the bigger picture, looking at footage like that, looking at like the curvature here, the type of shape that you're seeing up here, if you would imagine that at night reflected in a piece of perspex or glass and then cut off at the bottom, the result, depending on what you see on the CCTV monitor, would probably be very similar. One more aspect that's quite interesting in that regard is that, think about it this way. If you're zooming into an object that is on the firmament, right, on the horizon, and you focus on that, and by the way, the man who filmed this claimed that he always used manual focus, okay? So he manually focused on these objects. You would expect that an object that's on the horizon, that's far away from you, if that's in focus, and then let's say you zoom up to the moon, that would be in focus as well, right? Like, because it's both in extremely far distance, the moon should be focused at the same distance than the object is focused, if it is really that far away, unless it is much closer to you. Now check out this footage. You just saw that the object is currently in extreme focus, and here he is panning up, and you see that the moon right above the object is way out of focus. Keep in mind, he's using manual focus. This should be the same focus, unless the object that he's filming, the alleged UFO, is actually much closer to him. It's a small object that's in a mirror in front of him or on a piece of glass, rather than an actual object that's on the horizon, that's far away. This theory would also explain why nobody else ever filmed this object, because it only happened in his small, whatever, security office or wherever he was spending his nights at that time. And it is just a reflection that he maybe noticed by chance, right? Maybe there was like a piece of glass somewhere and it maybe tricked himself. He was like, what is that, right? He was looking, oh, it's just the glass reflecting, and it maybe sparked the idea. Again, this is just me theorizing. Sparked the idea to film it and to create this effect, and it worked out. And it worked once. He's spending a lot of nights there as the night security guard. Well, what are you going to do? You do another piece of footage, and amplify the narrative, and it kind of takes on a life of its own. Now, this does not explain how Dr. Roger Leir claimed to have seen him filming the object as well, because obviously if he would be just filming a little piece of glass hanging in a window somewhere, then obviously everyone would be saying like, bro, it's just that piece of glass. So there are still some questions to it, so I wouldn't necessarily call it a debunk, but to be honest, since we don't have any evidence for Dr. Roger Leir actually being there filming it, we have no footage, no photos of them together, and the only other person that I've seen on the picture with him is Antonio Urzi, I think that the theory that I just broke down to you guys holds a little bit more credibility than the claims of people like Dr. Roger Leir personally, for me personally, and or Antonio Urzi. So that's theory number one. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one. Does it give you some explanation? Do you feel this is satisfactory? If it is not, let's move to theory number two. And that is, in simplest terms, that he's filming the ring of his own camera as a reflection in the window in front of him. Okay, let's look at, for example, this footage that you see here. This is a screenshot of the alleged UFO. And let's look at this camera ring. Do you see the similarity? It has the indentation in the middle. If you would film that from far away, you're, I don't know, 2-3 meters away from the glass, which means that the reflection again is 6 meters away from yourself, and then you zoom in. with this not great camera, it would all blur up. And you could imagine you get a result like that. Even little details like, you know, the technical, I don't know what these are, even like interlocking mechanisms or something that you see down here, seem like they are reflected in some of this footage. Now, this would obviously mean that he filmed all this footage through a glass window. Again, him saying that he stood on that spot that we looked in the beginning where the guy with the stripy shirt was standing is just him making this claim that that's where the footage was shot. We don't know. He might as well have shot it from a few meters over or from somewhere in his security office or something. Again, this is just a claim, but this theory has other points of evidence, like this one, for example, which has been brought forward by Finn365. I'll link his YouTube channel. Credit goes to him for this image. I'll link his YouTube channel down in the description as well. And you can see that some of these camera lenses actually very, very much resemble that indentation that we see up here, that we see in a lot of the footage. If there would be some light that only shines on the top of his camera ring, and that's the only thing in a dark room that's reflected in the window in front of him, and he's zooming into that, you could probably get a very, very similar result. So that's theory number 2, that he's basically just filming his own camera equipment, zooming into it, and getting the effects that we're looking at. Now, let's move forward to theory number 3. And again, keep in mind, some of these theories might be responsible for some of the footage, okay? Like, some of it might be his camera equipment, some might be some trick he's doing with the CCTV footage, and some of these shots might just be a cruise ship, okay? If you look at this breakdown here, again, image that we're talking about on the top left-hand side here, and it has been overlaid over a cruise ship, because a lot of people don't understand that the footage that he shot was not always way above the horizon. Some of it was, but some of it, you can see it in the actual footage, in the stabilized footage, is very close to the horizon as well, and definitely at the height where a cruise ship would be. Now, if a cruise ship like this is just very, very far away, you zoom into it, you get a result like that. I don't understand, it's the question that's kind of still open, why there aren't more lights, right? Surely a cruise ship would have other lights on it that need to be on in order for it to be visible for helicopters and other potential aircraft and stuff that could fly into them. So that's not really answered by that, but you can see that the shape is almost a perfect match, right? It's a perfect match. So I would say, in terms of popularity, this is probably the most popular explanation that a lot of people put forward. But again, this just works for some of the footage, not all of it, okay? And there's still theory number 4. Now, theory number 4 is that it's basically a hoax and that he staged the whole thing intentionally using something like a bracelet. And the credit for this theory and some of the images we're going to look at are going to ZW Wolf on Metabunk as well, because he went through the effort of trying to stage and replicate what we see in the footage. And these are some of the results. And the way he achieved this result, which does look very, very similar. I mean, obviously, it's closer to him. He used a sharper camera. This was, I don't know, probably created in 2021 or 22. So you just get sharper results. But just in the basic shape of it, it looks very, very similar. And this is how he achieved it. Okay, he just put a bracelet around this T-shaped display unit, put a sock or whatever that is behind it to mask it off, made sure that the light is on point, and that's how you get results like this one. And notice, with this particular bracelet, we don't know if he used a bracelet or a ring, it could be any of those, but you see these layers on top, and then underneath you see like the wood, right? It's because it's sitting on wood. Now look at this footage right here. This again is a screen grab from the film in question. And you can almost see something sitting on top with layers, and you can almost see the wood pattern underneath. Do you see this? It's a different color. It has a different finish. Obviously, this is just me interpreting the footage, but I find footage like this one and images like this one rather compelling when it comes to explaining something like this, because it just looks very, very similar. And again, you can almost see the grain of the wood sitting underneath this object. So it could be any of those. Look, to be honest with you, all of the theories that I talked about today, to me, are more plausible than it being aliens, okay? Because again, coming back to the very beginning, an object that is stationary, that comes back over years, that's always in the same position, that never moves. Dude, it just doesn't make any sense, okay? And let's be honest, if this is the holy grail of ufology and the case that nobody can explain, dude, that's pretty sad. I'm not going to lie, okay? Because it's not aliens. I don't know which one of the theories that I explained and broke down do reflect what this guy did to achieve this result. I can't, debunk it per se. But let's be honest, dude, all of this just makes so much more sense than it being aliens. But guys, that's just my opinion, okay? You guys asked me to look at this case. That's my take on it. I hope you enjoyed this little deep dive into the Kumburgaz Turkey UFO. And I'm really curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments, okay? Do you feel, after hearing all this, it still makes sense that it's aliens, extraterrestrials? Or do you feel there's got to be some kind of simple logical explanation? Please leave any of your thoughts down in the comment section below. Don't forget to smash like on this video. That would be greatly appreciated. Subscribe to the channel for more. You can also join our Discord, okay? We have a Discord community where lots of like-minded people hang out. We look at other UFO cases and discuss it there. Not just UFOs. Talk about anything. Politics. People are venting about their problems. Talking about video games. All that is happening over on our Discord. The link to that is in the description. It's obviously free. I'm hanging out there as well, so we can have a chat. I would appreciate to meet you over there. Thanks so much for your time and hanging out. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm out. Bye.